السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Um, uh, this lecture is about action research. This is chapter 5, action research. This is the course research methodology and education. And today we're going to give an introduction to action research. Let's go and find out what are the main outlines of this talk. First of all, we are going to find out what is the definition of action research. We should have a clear image, a clear definition about this action research, and what is the difference between the normal research that we covered before in first 4 chapters and this type of research. Then we are going to discuss the benefits of action research to education, specifically to education. Then we'll discuss types of action research. Then we'll focus, this is the most important item in our outlines today, which is steps in action research, steps of action research. And finally, we will discuss 2 samples of action research. Let's go. Okay, well, in the next 3 slides, I'm going to display 3 definitions of action research. The first one is defining action research as a process of studying real schools or real classroom situation and understand and improve the quality of actions or instructions. So as you see, well, it is a process, consists of many steps, dealing with real schools or real classroom situation or classroom context. To what? To understand and improve the quality of actions or instructions. So it is a process dealing with a real school or real classroom. The objective of this process is to understand and to improve the quality of actions or instructions. Okay, let's go to the second definition. The second definition, it said that it is a systematic, orderly way for teachers to observe their practice or to explore problems and possible course of action. Again, it is systematic, planned, steps, clear action, a clear plan, and orderly way. Steps or ordered, first, second, third, for teachers. Here, it is just saying that this is for teachers. It could be not just for teachers, practitioners, to observe their practice. So we are going to observe, reflect, and explore the problems that teachers encountering, teachers facing, and if there is a possible solution, possible course of action. This is the second definition. The third definition, action research, is also a type of inquiry. So this is inquiry. We want to find out. Inquiry that is pre-planned, organized. Well, pre-planned, organized, this is another way to say a systematic process and can be shared with others. So it is a type of inquiry, pre-planned, organized, and can be shared with others. This is, in my opinion, this is a more general definition of research or action research. Well, I like the first one. Action research is defined as process of studying real school or classroom situation, because we are teachers and we do care about classroom. Actually, classroom is our major concern, and the situation, classroom context is our concerns as a teachers, to understand and improve the quality of actions or instructions. Well, you can adopt or take whatever you want from these 3 action research. Okay, let's go and find out the benefits of action research to education. There are so many, but I have selected just 4. Action research is a means of improving. It's a mean of improving student achievement. It is a mean of improving. This is a mean, not a means. It's a mean of improving student achievement through more effective teaching and administration of school. So it is a tool to improve the achievement of the student through more effective teaching and administrating of school. There is a cooperation between teacher and teaching staff and administration here of the school. Number two, educators involved in action research become more flexible in their thinking. So it is reflecting on their characteristics. They become more flexible in their thinking. They are more open to new ideas and they are open to solve new problems. Actually, Dewey said that the main objective of education is to make them a problem solver. Well, action research, it is one of the best means, one of the best tools to make teachers action or problem solvers. More open to new ideas and more able to solve new problems. So first of all, it's a means of improving students' achievement. This is first, it's our major concept. Number two, educators involved in action research become more flexible in their thinking, more open to new ideas, and more able to solve new problems. Number three, engaging in action research influence teachers' thinking skills. This is also reflected in their thinking skills, sense of efficacy, and willingness to communicate with colleagues, and attitudes towards professional development and the process of change. So it is a cooperative or collaborative process. Well, you are working in a team. This is a group work. You can't conduct an actual research without the help of no one. You need all the staff or you need many of the assistant of your colleagues. So engaging in action research influences teachers' thinking skills, sense of efficacy, and willingness to communicate with colleagues, and attitude towards professional development and process of change. Number four, teacher engaged in action research depends more on themselves as decision makers, and this is very important. Here we are trying to encourage the decision makers or to encourage making decisions through this types of research and gain more confidence in what they believed about curriculum and instructions. So they are involved, they are engaged when they are doing or conducting actual research, depends more on themselves and decision makers and gained more confidence in what they believed about curriculum and instructions. So let's say action research is a mean of improving student achievement. This is very important. Educators involved in actions become more flexible in their thinking. Also, they action research or engaging in action research influence teachers' thinking skills. This is very important, sense efficacy and willingness to communicate with colleagues. Number four, teachers engage action research dependent more on themselves as decision makers. So these are four benefits of action research. You can find in other textbook more benefits, but let us just focus on those four action research. It's a mean to improve students' achievements. Educators or engaging in action research become more flexible in their thinking. It's reflected also on their thinking skills, sense of efficacy. And number four, teachers engaged in action research dependent more on themselves as decision makers. Okay, let's go to type of action research. Individual research, teacher research. So can one teacher conduct a research, action research, or it could be collaborative action research. It could be school-wide research, and number four or D, it could be district-wide research. It's not just a school, but we are going here to focus on individual teacher research, collaborative action research, and the school-wide research. Okay, let's start. I'm going to take all of them and compare all of them from different perspectives. Let's say that here we'll take individual teacher research, collaborative teacher research, school-wide action research, and district-wide action research. Well, not going to focus on this column. I'm just going to focus on individual and collaborative and school-wide research. Well, individual. Let's just compare between individual collaborative school from focus point of view. What these action research focus on. Individual teacher research, it focus on single classroom issue. Well, I'm a teacher in a school and I'm encountering a certain problem with my students. Will discuss or will list some problems or some classroom context that I need to conduct a action research in order to find a solution. So individual teacher research, the focus is single classroom issue. What about collaborative? It's focusing on single classroom or several classroom with common issues. Suppose that Mr. Muhammad, Mr. Ali, Mr. Abdulaziz, they are teaching several questions classrooms and they have the same problem. So they can have collaborative action research. And school-wide school issue. This is a school issue raised on the level of the school. So problems or area of collective interest. So if it is just on the school level, it could be or it will be on school-wide action research. Well, what is the possible support needed? For individual, we need coach, mentor, access to technology, assistant with data organization and analysis. Okay, the teacher is conducting, but it needs some help. For collaborative, we need substitute teachers, of course, because we need many teachers, so we need substitute teachers, release time in order to contact, in order to collect data, in order to analyze, and close link with administrators. It's very important because we are talking about many schools, so we need support from administrator to substitute teachers and release times. And finally, we should have a strong link with administrator. On school-wide action research, school commitment, leadership, communication, and external partner. So, individual, collaborative school, individual, it's focusing on a single classroom, collaborative, focusing on single classroom or several classroom with common issue, and school issue problem or area of collaborative interest. Potential impact for individual, the potential impact is curriculum, instruction, assessment. It's the same here in collaborative, policy could be added, and for school-wide action, potential to impact school instructing and change policy, parents involvement, evaluation of programs. So as you see in school-wide action, it is too many topics or too many issues could be covered in conducting action research. As it's written here, potential to impact school structuring and change policy, parent involvement. Of course, parent involvement should be on school-wide action research, and also if there are some programs needed to be evaluated, it will be lying here in this column. Okay, now let's go to the most important part in this presentation, which is steps in action research. By the way, action research, it is not a linear process. It is a cyclic process. So it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, it is a cycle. It starts somewhere and it does not end. Well, steps in action research, number one, identification of problem area is very important and the first step. Number two, collection and organization of data. Number three, interpretation of data. Number four, which is the most important from this point, we have, or we this the action research has been emerged. I mean, the name action based on data. As long as we have data and we could interpret data, then we should have an action. And then after that, reflection. So identification of problem. Number two, collection and organization of data. Number three, interpretation of data. Then action based on data. Then finally, reflection. Well, as you see, it could be organized as a wheel or cycle, action research cycle. Identification or identify the problem, gather data, interpret data, act on evidence, evaluate results, and then next step, identify more problem, gather data, interpret data, act, evaluate, next step, identify, and it is a non-end process. Let's start with the first one, identification of problem area. Well, let's start with the question. The question should be a higher order question. It is not yes or no. Be stated in a common language, avoiding jargon. Be concise, meaningful, not already have an answer. We are not going to start with a problem. We know the answer. Of course, it should be concise and meaningful. And also it should be a higher order question. I mean, the answer is not yes or no. These are some examples of questions that could be used or posted as problems or questions in actual research. For example, why are my students not retaining what they have been taught? I'm teaching them, and I think I was very good in explaining everything. But when I ask them about the information, they forget. They simply forget. They are not keeping the information. Why? I would like to know why. Another question, why do Ahmed, Said, and Abdulaziz seems to lack the motivation to read? I need to know why those students or this group students in my classroom, they don't have motivation or lack motivation to read. Certainly there are some reasons behind this, and I would like to know why Said, Abdulaziz, and Ahmed have this problem. What are the specific reasons behind Hashim's behavior problem? He has Hashim problem, has problem in behavior. Why? And it could be new on Hashim's behavior. Usually, Hashim is very good students, but in the last weeks, Hashim misbehaved frequently. I would like to know why. How can I use my instructional time more effectively? This is very important questions, and many teachers are asking this question frequently. These are examples of problems for action research. As you see, it is all about teaching and learning. It's all about teachers. It's all about the problem or similar to problems that we are encountering in our classroom. We'll go to step number 2 after I identify the problem and ask the question. Number 2, I'm going to gather data. Okay, as you see, this is an inductive process. Inductive process. Many vehicles for collecting of data. Well, I may use interviews. I may use portfolios, diaries, audio tapes, questionnaires, photos, checklists, observation, video tapes, records, tests, reports, cards, report cards, attendance, self-assessment, samples of students' work, projects, performance. So many means, so many tools, so many instruments I could use in order to gather data. It depends on my student, it depends on the question, it depends on the problem. And the teacher or the practitioner or the researcher is the best person who can identify the mean or the tool or the instrument by which he is going to gather data or collect data. Again, I can use interview. I can use, this is interview, it's very important. I can use questionnaire. I can use observation. I can use record, test, report cards, attendance, could be self-assessment, student, sample, students' work, projects, and for all of these. I can use all of these, but all those are the most popular tools used in action research. Okay, so step number 2, it's gathering data. Step number 1, identification of problem areas. Number 2, gathering data. Number 3, interpret data. So data are quantifiable and can be analyzed without the use of statistics or technical assistance. Other data such as opinion, attitudes, or checklists may be summarized in table form. So after I had data, I have to interpret data, try to find out why I have this data or I have this behavior. Now, as long as I have data and I have interpreted data, now I have to act on the evidence using the information from data collection and review of current literature. Now I'm going to design a plan of action that will allow me or allow you to make a change and study that change. So based on data collected and interpretation of data, I'm going to set a plan to for intervention, plan of action. Why? I want to make change. I have a problem. I want to change the behavior, or I want to change the results that I have, the context that I have. So I'm going to design a plan of action that will allow me to make change and study that change. Well, only in this change, I want to alter one variable, and this is very important here. Make the one change. So just alter change one variable, as with any experiment. If several changes are made at once, it will be difficult to determine which action is responsible for the outcome. Let's say I have found that my class is scoring very low on science, grade 5. Okay, well, we just after I collecting data, I find that the examples that I give them is, let's say, are not enough. So I just add one example or change one variable, which is increasing the examples that I'm solving, or increasing the problems that I'm solving, or increasing the worksheets that I'm giving to the students. So I'm just changing one variable. It is just one variable to be altered or changed to make this very easy to determine which action is responsible for the outcomes. Now, after we act on evidence, I have to evaluate the results. Well, assess the efforts of the intervention to determine if the improvement has occurred or not. I said let's say just go back here, we said after we gather data, interpret data, we design a plan to make a change, and then after that I have to study that change. Okay, I have set a plan of action to make this change. Then I have to evaluate. I have to assess the effect of this intervention, the plan that I set in order to make this change. I have to assess this. Is the intervention that I suggested in my plan of action gives the results or gives the change that I want? Improved or not. So assessing the effecting of the intervention to determine if improvement has occurred or not. If there is improvement, then do the data clearly provide the supporting evidence? If no, what change can be made to the actions to elicit better results or receive better results? So after that, we have to evaluate the results. What can we ask in order to evaluate the results? What were the effects of intervention? If I have some effects, what were the effects of intervention? Has improvement occurred? What evidence do you have to support your conclusion? Here it is systematic. Everything should be supported by evidence. Everything. So we are going to ask some questions such as what were the effects of intervention, has improvement occurred, and what evidence do you have to support your conclusion. Next step, what additional questions were raised by the data, and a plan for additional improvement, revision, and next step. Just go back to our cycle. We identify the problem. This is number 1, gather data. Number 2, interpret data. Number 3, act on evidence. This is the most important step. Number 5, evaluating result. And number 6, next step, just to start the cycle again and again. Sorry. Evaluate the results. Plan for additional improvement, and this seems the last next step. Okay, still we have one more part, which is samples of actual research. We are going to discuss this in next class, which is samples of actual research. We will have 2 samples. We are going, I think, one of them in science and one of them in English, and we are going to discuss those two samples in detail. As for this, we come to the end of our presentation. Thank you very much. See you in the next lecture. Assalamu alaikum.